Derrick White has a monster game. It's a bounce-back game for a few people, and Jaylen Brown gets tossed. Oh, I've got words about that right now on a bonus Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I got you every day with a free, fresh podcast drop directly to your device if you're a subscriber. So make sure you are subscribed on whichever app you use to listen to your podcast. You can even watch the show on YouTube. You're not watching the show on YouTube by now? Well, you have that choice. You can hop in the comment section. You can let me know what you think about all the stuff that I'm talking about here on this bonus special podcast, which I do after every game. So it's not just a Monday through Friday podcast. If they play on a Friday or a Saturday, then I'm podcasting after that as well. I'm John Karalis, by the way. I used to play ball a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal and for you, because that's kind of what my job is, right? I'm covering it for kind of everybody. Celtics win 133-123, beating the New York Knicks. One of 5 games now, not 4. 5 games against the Knicks. It's one of the quirks of the in-season tournament because the Knicks ended up losing that game. The Celtics played the loser of that one game. So this is not one of 4. It's one of 5. So and look, Celtics, I think they've won all 3. So, yeah, they've won 3. So they get the tiebreaker. So should it ever come to that, that's the deal. All right. Later on, I'll save the Jaylen Brown stuff for the end because it's not the most important part of this game. But, man, it just continues a trend of, I don't know, overly sensitive officials this year. I thought Jayson Tatum's ejection was not great. That was a little weak. We've seen other ejections. I saw Giannis get ejected for reacting to a play. Like it was more like they threw him out on a taunt, but it wasn't really a taunt. Like the ejections of star players, big names, that's not what the NBA wants. That's not what the NBA wants. And I know that. I'll save it. I will save it. Let's start at the top. Celtics get the win. First half, very little defense was played. It was much better in the second half. In the third quarter, they ended up going on a nice run to start the third quarter. Nice to see a third quarter go well. Although, if you look at the breakdown, their third quarters at home have generally been pretty good. The net rating for Boston in third quarters at home is plus 14.5. It's the road where they're minus 16.2. So that's where the bigger issue is. But still, it's a third quarter, and the Celtics have had problems in the third quarter. So we like to highlight that. Celtics went on a nice 27-16 start to the third quarter. The lead ended up going up to 20 points. It kind of hung around there a little bit. Then at the end of the third quarter, this is why it drives me a little bit crazy when teams relax going up 20. 20 points doesn't mean anything in the NBA anymore, right? 30 is the new 20 in the NBA. And even that I'm not comfortable with heading into a fourth quarter. We just saw the Mavericks go on a 30-0 run. It's not impossible. But what the Knicks did at the end of the third quarter, with about a minute and a half to go, minute 40 to go, they started hitting 3-pointers. Boom, boom, boom. 3 in a row. You hit one. Okay. You hit a second one. No one's calling a timeout after someone hits 2 3-pointers. Teams will run out of timeouts in the second quarter if that happened. So third 3-pointer comes with 15 seconds left. All of a sudden it's a 9-0 run. Your 20-point lead is 11. That's it. it's so easy in today's NBA to lose a lead. So it goes from 20 to 11 real quick. Boom. I think maybe the biggest shot of the game was Al Horford's corner three-pointer as time wound down. It went through with 0.8 left. It went from an 11-point game to a 14-point game. And that's a big deal, because then to start the fourth quarter, the Knicks come out, hit a shot, and Al Horford hits another three. Now it's a 15-point game, and that kind of calms things down. More than a timeout, more than anything, it's just simple execution and making your shots. You didn't need a timeout to say, hey, let's work the ball around, let's drive, let's kick to a good three-point shooter in the corner. And that's how it went. Al Horford drills that three. Biggest shot of the game to me. So Celtics held on. They did a great job. Derrick White was amazing in this game. He just seemed to do a little bit of everything and always hitting the shot, always doing what they needed him to do. I wrote a big thing on Boston Sports Journal the other day about Derrick White. He's their most impactful player. Here he is again, 20. What do you have in this one? 30 points. He was a plus 21. Team high plus 21. Going into this game, the Celtics were 14, a little bit more than 14 points better than the opponent when he's on the floor. And here he is a plus 21. So that number is going to get better. In the half court, the Celtics were plus 16 and change with Derrick White on the floor. That's going to get better. The Celtics are better with Derrick White on the floor, man. That dude is the most impactful player on this team. 30 points in this game, 10 of 16 shooting, 6 of 10 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line. The efficiency numbers going through the roof. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, no turnovers. What an amazing game from Derrick White. After that game against Indiana, where he just fell apart in the second half, and he was hard on himself after that game. You could see he was emotional after that game, and like he was down. But Joe Mazzulla said after this win, yeah, Derrick White, yeah, you got to coach him a little bit, but like he's hardest on himself. And Derrick White said after the game, I just didn't want to have 2 bad games in a row. So he came out and very much did not have a second bad game in a row. That was an absolute, just brilliant performance from Derrick White. Celtics also got a nice game from Kristaps Porzingis, who came back after missing 4 games, 21 points. He hit his first 7 shots. So it looks nice. 7 of 13 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line. Well, he was 7 of 7 to start the game, and then he missed his next 6 shots. So 7 of 7, 3 of 3 from 3, and then 0 of 6, 0 of 3 from 3 in the second half. Hey, as he said after the game, in the long run, everything evens out. But great to see Porzingis back, and you instantly saw the impact. Joe Mazzulla put it perfectly after the game. With Porzingis in, it changes the matchups a little bit. Everybody gets a different matchup, kind of like one matchup down, and other guys can take advantage of that. But Porzingis early on comes in firing, and was a huge reason why the Celtics were able to put up so many points in the first half. There was not very much defense played in the first half, where the Celtics put up 33 points in the first quarter and 41 in the second. So that's 74 to 65. They gave up 3 more 30-point quarters and a 28-point fourth quarter to the Knicks. That's not good defense. Their defensive rating is going to be taking a hit after that, considering that they gave up, 2 36-point quarters in the second half against the Pacers. So they're that was a 5-quarter streak of giving up 30+ points. That's not going to be good enough in the long run. But they won, so that's, it's okay. It's okay as long as you win, right? It's not okay. That's the reality. It's not okay. But they got away with it in this first half, but in this game. So Porzingis comes back, he looks good. Jrue Holiday comes back, he looks good. And this is the bounce back, and this is the bigger story that I wrote on Boston Sports Journal. I write two stories. I write a game report, and then I write like a featured story. And that's like my biggest takeaway from the game. And I think what my biggest takeaway was the Celtics keep finding ways to avoid two bad games in a row. And I know that they haven't played, like they've had two bad games, like subpar games in a row, but they haven't lost two games in a row except for once. So far, you're more than 25% of the season through. They have 5 losses. Only 2 of those are consecutive. Only once have they won a game without adding at least 2 more. Not counting this game because they haven't played the next 2 more, right? So only once have they won a single game. They go loss, win, loss this season so far. Every other time they've won, it's been part of a winning streak. So these Celtics, for all that we can say, for all of the downside, all of the fourth quarter stuff, these losses feel familiar, the stuff that people have been saying after the Pacers loss, for all of that stuff, the Celtics have not strung together 2 stinkers that have cost them that they've lost. You can say Memphis and Charlotte were 2 stinkers in a row, but they won the game in Memphis. We can say what we want, and it wasn't pretty, and maybe they should have lost. They definitely should have lost, but they won. So they keep finding ways to avoid like 2 disasters, right? They haven't put this losing streak together aside from was it Minnesota and I forget who the Minnesota Philly back to back. So not back to back, but consecutively. So that's what we saw in this game because look, Derrick White had a bad game in the last one. He bounced back. Holiday had a bad game in the last game, like a complete no-show. He bounced back. He had stretches where he was kind of carrying the team for short stretches. Those types of bounce backs, Porzingis misses 4 games, comes in. I'll count that as a bounce back. Even Jaylen Brown, who I'll talk about more with the ejections in a second, I thought he played really, really well. 17 points, 7 of 13 shooting, 4 assists. His potential assists, he'll have a few more of those. And I thought he generally played pretty well in this game. He was moving the ball. There were a couple of times where he looked like it was in an in-between kind of, he's going to drive. He probably generally drives this, but he pulled it out and moved the ball. I thought he played pretty well. So that's a bounce back. He got like I said, the 4 assists in this game. After the ESPN graphic that said, he's got no assists in the past 2 games, and he responded saying, "Y'all corny, watch the games." The passing is back, and that's good. So bounce back games. The Celtics don't let these things linger, and that's a sign of a good team. That is a sign of a good team, right? It's not about playing perfectly, and I think we make the mistake of, well, they're not playing perfectly, so how good can they be? Well, no team plays perfectly. It's how do you respond to when you play poorly? That's where a good team really piles up the wins. That's the difference between 60-win team and 48-win team. Because 48-win teams let losses linger and bleed into the next game, and you go on 2-3 game losing streaks. But if you have a loss, and then you say, okay, can't do that again, and you're like Derrick White, can't have 2 bad games in a row, boom, you win that next game. You cut your losses off at 1, maybe 2, but you don't let it get to 3, 4, 5. The mediocre to worse teams string losses together. The Celtics so far have been stringing wins together. So your response is the most important thing. It's not about playing perfectly. We all analyze it. Like Porzingis even said it the other day. The goal is to have the perfect game. The goal is to be perfect. But we know that that's never going to happen. And when I analyze a game, I'm analyzing it with the goal of perfection in mind, which is impossible, but you're always pursuing that. This is how it's done right. And every possession, if you do it right, this is how it's going to look. And the possessions don't all go that way. The games don't all go that way. But when you do what the Celtics did in this game, which in every other way was just kind of a generic win over a good team, I think the bounce back here is really kind of important. I think the ability for guys like Holiday, White, Porzingis off of an injury, Jaylen when it comes to just the specific ball movement, even, Al Horford with his shooting, all of those things, that matters. And the total team effort of 6 guys in double figures, at least 14 points, and getting contributions up and down the box score, that's how you have these bounce backs. That's how you have these moments of, well, we're not going to allow for extended losing streaks. These are the moments. These are the types of games where, coming off that loss to Indy, important to win. Important to win. And when you win these games, this is how you get to 55 and 60 wins and not 48, 49 wins. And if you're hard to beat 2 games in a row, you know where else you're hard to beat? In the playoffs. Because you're going to have to win a couple of these things in a row, generally speaking, to win a playoff series. So if teams can't get a losing streak on you, then it bodes well. Okay, Jaylen Brown got tossed with 7:19 to go in the fourth quarter. Now, normally, I'm level-headed about this. There's a little back and forth. There's always 2 sides to this. And, yeah, Jaylen reacted after the first tech in a way that's like, okay, calm down. Actually, after the first foul, the foul that he committed, he had a big reaction. So the big reaction kind of sets the ref up. It's like, okay, what's this? And then, to quote Joe Mazzulla after the game, in a safe for work but still spelling out a curse word, he said that he was told, the ref told him that Jaylen got the tech for saying, you can't call that weak ass SHIT, which makes that a weak ass tech, because if you're telling me that that's enough to give Jaylen Brown a tech, then how does Draymond Green even exist? How does he even exist in the NBA? How do half these players exist in the NBA? If you can't say that to an official, that is weak. And then, so Jaylen, after that tech, is talking to the other ref, and he's continuing on. And at some point, yes, you can say, well, he kept going. But the tech actually escalates the issue. You have a guy who's kind of like complaining and emotional, and you give him a tech, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what? You've escalated the issue. The tech is supposed to be like the warning, or I've told you stop it. Now this is it. Boom. You earned this. So then Jaylen's talking to the other official, and I see from my seat the first official saying, what? Like, he's talking to Jaylen. He's across the court. Jason Goldenberg. So he's on the left side of the floor, right? The sideline across from the bench. And he's looking over at Jaylen. And I can see him saying, what? Like, Jaylen's talking to the other official. And Goldenberg's acting like a baseball official. Like, he's specifically watching and waiting to engage with Jaylen Brown. The behavior of this official was contrary to how these officials are supposed to act. If you're standing over there, stand over there. Jaylen's talking to, I believe it was the crew chief. And if the crew chief is saying you're crossing a line, then the crew chief can give him a tech and throw him out. But Jaylen was talking to the crew chief, and he gets subbed out. And he's still hot. He's going to the bench. He says something. He makes a quick, like, I don't even know that it was a wave. He gestures, really honestly, even if you hate Jaylen Brown, even if you hate the Celtics, that little wave, you got to admit, if it was your guy who made that little wave and you call it tech, you'd be pissed. And that's just any tech. To get thrown out over it, horrible. Jaylen Brown was right after the game where he said, basically, I thought my first ejection, this was his first ever ejection, I thought my first ejection would be like for a fight or something, not an overly sensitive official having a bad day. And that's what this was. Like, the Jayson Tatum one was weak, but they both, like, I think there was a little bit on both sides that needed to calm down. This one was, I don't know, man. This one was, I think Jaylen had a real strong point. I hope they rescind the second tech because that's terrible. The fact that they even admitted after the fact, like, oh yeah, he was thrown out for that gesture. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Never mind that it's a weak tech. Then you have the added bit of he's an all NBA player. You're not going to cut an all NBA player some slack? Really? I thought that's how it went in this league. Like LeBron, KD, Draymond, like guys who get techs get leeway too, especially after the first tech. Right? Remember Anthony Edwards got a tech against Boston, and then after the game, he's like, I knew they weren't going to throw me out. And he kept pressing his point, and they didn't throw him out. They didn't want to throw him out. How does Jaylen get tossed in this game? Fourth quarter of a close game. Fairly close. And the refs tossed Jaylen Brown over that? That's not what the NBA wants. That's not what Adam Silver wants. That's what nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So I think it was absolute crap. And I think the NBA needs to rescind at least one of those technicals. There's nothing you can do. And luckily the Celtics held on. Celtics kind of fell apart there after that. Well, I don't know what happened, but they fell apart after that. They couldn't hit a shot after that. But they held on, obviously, and they won. But I thought that was just absolute poor officiating. Poor officiating. You let a guy get his emotional outburst out. You talk to him, you calm him down, and then that's it. That's what you're supposed to do as a ref. You're not supposed to stare him down. You're not supposed to bark at him. And you're not supposed to toss him over a little tiny gesture when he's on the bench. That's terrible. That's terrible. Jason Goldenberg's been in the league for like 6 years. This is his 6th season officiating. You should know better by now. Okay? I don't know what kind of bad day he's been having, but that was terrible. That was terrible. All right. I'm going to wrap it up there. Bonus podcast is done. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you are not subscribed yet, come on, please subscribe. If you are, then thank you so much for being a regular listener and everydayer. Thank you so much for coming up to me at the Garden when you're there and saying hi to all the people who said hi to me at this game. Shout out to you. Come by. If you're at a game, Say hi to me. I'd love to meet all of the listeners, all of the watchers. And I also love to have you share the podcast, spread the word, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.